Hello, shiny, crafty people. It's Tim Totten here. I am coming to you live on Saturday, September 28th. Gotta remember what day it is. September 28th. I'm at my house in Eustis, Florida. And normally I debut a video on Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. And I will be debuting a video after this. I have one coming out at 11, shortly after 11 a.m. It's about pediatric port shirts, and it's for those who are battling cancer and have a port that's been inserted into their body, and they need like a zippered thing so they can open their shirt, have treatment done, chemotherapy specifically. And so I am excited for that video. I've made it before, but this one is for pediatric size shirts. And I found a different way to make those shirts something a little more interesting to do. So I'm sharing it with you in that particular video. So if you're on with me now, we're live. And why don't you go ahead and put a comment in the chat? I'll even comment in chat to say hello. You can ask questions in the chat and I will then answer back. So tell me you're here. Let me know where you are coming from. I'd love to find out. There's more and more people joining us. Good morning, everyone. This is actually a live Q&A. I'm going to take your questions in the chat. So, hey, Jackie from Illinois, nice to see you. Thanks for joining me. I am coming to you live this morning, and then after this video is done, I will be debuting another video about pediatric cancer shirts, port shirts, so that people in having chemotherapy can get access to their port. Jolynn, I hope I said your name right, from Minnesota. Nice to see you. I don't know if is it Daniel? Danny, there you go, from New Hampshire. Thank you, Danny. I so much appreciate that. So I'm so glad to hear from anyone who wants to ask questions today. Just chat in general. Callie, yes, we did survive the hurricane. I'm in Central Florida, and luckily we're not near the coast. It's crazy though to see how much damage they're seeing in other states from flooding, which is absolutely unbelievable. It was very crazy to get through the hurricane and be like, oh, everything's okay, and then see people who are really suffering. Sandra, good morning to you. You're in Chattanooga. Hey, thanks for joining us. Great place. Nancy in Vegas. Oh my goodness, is it ever going to get cool there? You know, I go to Vegas every year for a convention, for a funeral related convention because I'm in that industry. And they always seem to have it at the hottest time of year. I don't understand, but I'm from Florida, so we both understand how hot things are. Jolynn, thank you. I'm glad that you're new here. I am working on a few projects coming up. I do want to share that with everybody today, some of the stuff that I have coming up, and also to ask you for ideas, things you'd like to see. You know, I never know if people like my tutorials more than they like maybe the videos where I go to stores and find crafting and sewing finds. Or if I do a video where I sit like this and show you, 10, things I wish I had learned when I first started sewing. They all have different varying degrees of popularity, but I don't think I want to go by like just the view count. Like, sometimes I think people don't sit and watch full tutorials. And so I always wonder, like, are tutorials still the right thing to do? But I love doing them. I like figuring out a new project. Recently I did that one with I bought a round plastic charger from the store, from a Dollar Tree actually, and used it to make it a template for a table runner. And I thought that was kind of fun to do. So I like doing those kind of things. I always fun to find something that isn't too hard, because I tend to think that my viewers are still those people who are watching because they're kind of new to sewing, or they haven't sewn something in a while, or maybe they're unsure about trying new things. And I get you to encourage you to try new things. Sandra, thank you so much. You enjoy my videos. I really appreciate that. Victoria says, I very much enjoy your tutorials. Good, good, good. One of the things that I did very early on, I accidentally made this channel. Really, I wasn't going to be doing a lot of sewing videos, but pandemic hit and there were no masks available, and we were making fabric masks. And so I just recorded a video of how to do a certain kind of mask I had seen from somebody as part of my local group. We were making masks locally. I believe very much in working in my local community, and it blew up. And it was like, oh, there's a audience out there, people who want to learn how to do some of these things. So I just started making those videos. And then of course we didn't need masks as much anymore, and it didn't make sense to keep making those videos because we didn't need them. And wow, I was able to transition to other stuff. Vicky, From Michigan. Oh my goodness. Where are you in Michigan? I have a lot of family there, and they all live in the Grand Rapids, Big Rapids area. So they're on the east side of, no, the west side of the state. My grandmother's, I wish I knew where Lapeer was, but it doesn't matter. My grandmother, it doesn't matter because, Michigan's great altogether. I love people all over Michigan. My grandmother's maiden name is Van Westrien. And so, she's in that big Dutch population from that area. And of course, big family, 10, 11 or 12 of them, I think it was, kids in their family. She's 92 in March and is one of the big reasons that I started sewing. She taught me to sew when I was just a teenager. So I do have a couple of fun things coming up for the channel. Specifically, I'm going to be reviewing, on the east side between Flint and Port Huron. Okay, well, I know where that is then. I have friends outside of Detroit, and occasionally I go to Midland, Michigan, because it's the home of Alden Dow, a really famous architect who studied with Frank Lloyd Wright and did amazing work of his own. If you get a chance to see Alden Dow, his home and studio is in Midland, and it's fantastic, really amazing. Back to what I'm doing for the channel coming up. I ordered a couple of shirts from Amazon, and they are sewing related and craft related T-shirts. There's so many T-shirts available with funny sayings, and I found a bunch of them that I thought were hilarious. So I'm going to do a video like showing those off. Now you can find them on more than just Amazon, Etsy, and other places. But in that video, that'll be in a couple of weeks. Vicky, you say you have 1,000-acre farm. Oh my goodness! Wow, that's a lot to manage. Good for you. I also have some interesting videos. I own a huge laser engraver. You'll see my cup. I'm a huge Star Trek fan, so this is my Picard laser engraved cup. And I got an email from a company that makes lasers, a little smaller. The one I have is enormous. It's almost as big as a car. And it's a part of one of my companies. We make laser engraved products for all kinds of companies. And one of the interesting things is that this company reached out to me, and they sell smaller tabletop size lasers. And they said, do you think crafting and sewing people could actually use one of these? And I think there are cases in which they could. So they sent me one to use. I'm so used to my gigantic laser that this smaller laser, it's taken me a little time to figure out how to use it and how to make a video that'll explain to people who don't have a lot of that technical skill how to set it up and use it. So I'm still playing with it. I don't want to make a video until I know for certain that it's something that would actually be useful. There's no point in me making a video just because somebody wants to send me a laser, which I'm probably not going to use again. I mean, I don't know that I'll use their laser again in the future. I'll probably find some local high school or somebody to give it to so the kids can learn how to use a laser. Hey, Bobby, you're in Tennessee. Thank you so much. Oh, yes, the towel fabric border video. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's a really great way to make a fast gift for someone. I love that. I love that video. It's funny. I don't go back to my own videos very often unless somebody asks me, "Hey, what kind of sewing machine are you using?" And I go, "Well, I did make a video of it, so I might as well, put the link for them." And but I don't go look at those. But that is one that I've seen a couple times lately because I go, "Oh, I need to make a housewarming gift for somebody." And honestly, it's a lot easier than the bottle bag video that I made, which I may do again in the future just because I found better techniques. So, but that towel fabric border, what a great way to take just a plain towel and add some specialty fabric or something that people love. And I love to do it with, like there's some great at Walmart. They have some great Harry Potter fabric, and if you can buy a set of um, you can buy a set of those fat quarters and just make a bunch of different ones. Jolyn asks, how do I find your videos? It's real easy. You just click on my name on this video. This video popped up as a live Q&A. You click my name, and it'll bring you to my channel with all my different videos. Or you just Google me on YouTube. Just put it into the search bar, Tim Totten. Real super easy. Jen, you're from South Texas. Hey, congratulations. Thanks for being here. Vicky, does laser cut fabric? Oh, absolutely. Laser absolutely cuts fabric. In fact, the reason I bought the laser in the first place is that my main company, which is called Final Embrace, I started that in my garage 20 something years ago now, and making blankets and quilts for funeral homes. I actually would buy quilts from my cat is making all kinds of noise. Come here. I'm fine. I would buy blankets, I would buy quilts from old time pottery 20 something years ago and cut them up. And then we started making our own. And eventually we created a product that was reversible with a stars and stripes pattern on the back that we sewed out, that we sew still out of a nylon pack cloth fabric. And so we would cut stars. I was paying someone to cut stars out of this specialty material for me and paying $1 a star. And then I found out if I bought a laser, I could make them for about 12 cents a star. Of course, I had to buy the $40,000 laser. So, but it's worked because in the last 6 years or so, we've made thousands and thousands and thousands of stars, and I've made a lot of other projects. We do so many of these laser engraved cups. I mean, it's crazy the number of these that we do for companies. I just did 100 of them um, for the local police department for Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and they're selling them to raise money. And so, yes, fabric can be cut inside of a laser, which is surprising. But you can also cut other materials as well that you might use for that. Hello from St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. Oh, you went to So Green in Rochester a few weeks ago. That is so wonderful. I'm excited for that. That was a video I did a couple of months ago when I visited Rochester, New York, and I visited a fabric and crafting thrift store, which I thought was absolutely amazing. A great way to recycle those old stashes that people have, and also to make room in your own stash for more stuff. So I'm glad that you were able to visit. Brandy in Tampa, I hope you're doing okay. I have a lot of family in the Tampa area. I have some family from the St. Pete area. If you're watching and you're not from Florida, St. Pete and Tampa are sisters, are right near each other. St. Pete is right on the Gulf, and Tampa's a little bit protected in that area. But St. Pete is sort of the area that sticks out toward the Gulf. And I think my sister-in-law said she wasn't able to go home yet because of the flooding to get back to their house. But the house was supposedly okay. They had no major issues where they were. It's just that getting to it was a little bit of a problem. Vicky says, I like the pattern behind you, and you live in Texas. Thank you. This is actually, I love to go to quilt stores and see all the great ideas. And sometimes I actually buy uh, things that they're selling kits. This is a kit quilt. However, I did not make this. I bought it after they had made it and demonstrated it and sold a bunch of kits, and then they were getting rid of. They were selling out on discount their quilts that were all those sample quilts, and I just fell in love with this one. It's books and stamps and all kinds of things, travel, world travel, and other stuff. So it's really just big squares. If you think about it, this is just a square right here. I have to go backwards. That is made up of a large rectangle with a bit of black sashing and then 3 other pieces. So it's really not that difficult to do, and it's just the same square all the way around. That's a Frank Lloyd Wright clock right there. So Charlene said you're going back to So Green in a few weeks. You should definitely go. They are a really great organization. It was so much fun hanging out with them. Anna is in the UK. Wow. Oh, my racket bag tutorial. What a weird one, huh? For those watching who haven't seen it yet, I've been doing a series of videos whenever the thought strikes me, so it's not that often, uh, making things from a pre-made quilt. So buying a quilt from the store, when I say quilts, I mean like it's printed fabric on both sides, but it's been stitched together, quilted together. So it's like going to your local department store and buying a flat quilt. And so I've been making a number of videos from that. Victoria, I am actually in Eustis, Florida, in the center of the state. That's near Mount Dora. It's about 30 miles northwest of Orlando, and 30 years in the past. I don't know how big the squares are behind me, Jolynn. Maybe they're 12 inches potentially. Vicky, yes, lasers definitely come smaller than 40,000. I have a gigantic laser. I am an overachiever. I buy gigantic items. I wanted the biggest one in town. In fact, when it came time for the pandemic, it helped me to cut huge acrylic barriers for hospitals and banks and libraries and insurance companies, and it paid for the laser. But yeah, they're usually hundreds of dollars, not thousands and tens of thousands of dollars. Back to the racket bag tutorial. I like tennis. I like tennis a lot. It kind of tricks me into exercising. And so I thought, is it possible to take a pre-made quilt and create an actual tennis bag? I bit off more than I could chew with that, but it worked. I love a puzzle like that. So it was a lot of work. I don't expect most people to actually try that one. So good for you, Anna. If you actually do try it, that would be kind of fun. Oh, Sheila, you like the quilt related tutorials? You know what? Me too. I'm a big fan. I have a few more of those coming, and we're going to be talking about 4 or 5 ways to bind a quilt. That'll be a video coming up in the next couple months. And I took inspiration from another video that I watched that I really, really liked. But I thought there were some ways to sort of improve on what the lady was talking about. So I'll reference her in the video that I make, put a link to her video. So I want to show where I've been inspired. And then I'm going to show you the ways I would do it a little bit differently. There are a lot of ways to actually finish your quilt, meaning in the binding stage. And they don't all include just putting on traditional binding. There are actually other ways. In fact, I've shared a couple on here. I shared a facing idea for a quilt, which I thought was actually really useful and one that I would maybe use um, more often as I go through. And then I want to answer some questions. I have another video coming about their like 10 most common questions from beginners. And they're questions like, so like, why do they always cut binding strips? Like, why do they always cut them at the end, cut them at an angle instead of just cutting straight across? Why wouldn't you just butt the two ends together and sew them together? Well, there's a reason. And I'll share the explanation. So it's not just like, oh, well, we've always done it that way. So that's one of the things I want to do really is help people who either aren't sewers at all and they're learning how to sew. I keep thinking about new people learning how to sew and how I want to help them. And then, of course, I want people who maybe haven't sewn in a while and are getting back to it, or to have support and help and realize that it's possible to do, even if you're not like a super expert. The other thing I really want to do is demystify a lot of sewing stuff, because I feel like sometimes people don't get involved in sewing projects or taking on projects because they think, oh well, there's people way better than me and I don't know what I'm doing, or they never learned. And sometimes the attitude gets like, oh well, you should already know that. That's something everyone knows. Well, truth is not everyone knows it. So it helps to have it maybe spelled out a little bit more often. And there's a meme that goes around that says, I don't know who yada yada is, and at this point I'm too afraid to ask. Like, there's that, like, did we miss something? I've had that happen way too often with me. Like, somebody will reference some new young singer or actor or influencer or whatever, and the world will be as if that person is just the most important person on the planet. And I think, I have no idea who this person is, and I am afraid to ask because I'm going to look stupid. Yeah. Well, so if you don't know who Chapel Rowan is, that's the reason why. By the way, great singer, has a really good voice. Let's see. Trudy says, hello from Temecula. I'm assuming that's California. Hey, nice to see you. I have great friends in California. I collect friends all across the country, by the way. So I'm a huge fan. I hate staying in hotels. I'm not saying all my friends put me up in their house, but I love to create really good friendships. So in case I am traveling, I have people to hang out with, rather than just like, if I'm going to go give a talk on Frank Lloyd Wright, famous architect, I don't want to go I don't want to have to just go sit in a hotel at the end of the night. I want friends to hang out with. And so I usually book my trips based upon where my friends live. Let's see. Jackie, will you be doing any tutorials for October for Cancer Awareness Month? Well, the next tutorial that I have coming out literally in like an hour is for chemotherapy port shirts. I did a video on my channel a while ago, over a year ago. It's the one that starts out with me wearing a crown and a sash. That's a whole nother story. You'll have to watch the video. But I showed how to put a zipper into a shirt so that you would have access to a person who's going through chemotherapy would have access to the port without having to take their entire shirt off and getting cold and all of that. But someone asked me to make some for a young girl. So I've created some pediatric shirts, and they're actually a different way of creating them. So I was happy to do a tutorial again because I wanted to show how this different way would really work. My cat is bouncing around here. Let's see. Victoria, I just taught a class to my quilt group about a Holland zipper bag. Oh, you recommended my tutorial. I didn't teach it your way with the Craft Street method. That's perfectly fine. I actually did not, when I made that video, I felt a little bad because I didn't have access to the pattern that I had bought, which I hadn't used anyway, but I had seen somebody else make the video. So I bought the pattern, but I forgot the name of the company. And I forgot even the name of what the style was. And I just sort of changed a few things that I liked better. I don't like seeing the not the raw, but the that edge of a zipper. So I always like to cover it with sort of like a casing or a binding, which is why I changed the way mine was built and designed. But they work fine, and they actually have very lovely version. They sort of teach. I wonder, did you like teach people to make a full quilt sandwich first and then put the zipper on? I didn't because I'm kind of lazy. I wanted to go through it kind of fast. Constance, hi from Virginia. Hey, Constance, thank you so much for joining me. It's really wonderful to be able to chat with people from all over the place. Vicky says, I just like things that I can learn from. You always touch on something. Well, I hope to. You know, the thing is, I really feel like if I hadn't gone into the work that I do now, all the different things I do, that I would have been a teacher. I would have, that's just what I would have done. I love doing that. And really, when I get to talk about Frank Lloyd Wright, my favorite architect, many of you have heard that before, but if you didn't know that, I'm an expert on the life and work of architect Frank Lloyd Wright. In fact, I'm teaching a series of classes at the Enrichment Academy. It's right here. The Enrichment Academy in the Villages. Oh, look, that's me. And I have a series of 8 classes that I'm teaching there. So if you're anywhere in Florida at a place called the Villages, or you know people who live in the Villages, and the odds are you may, because there's, I don't know, almost 200,000 people living in the Villages now. It's a retirement community here in Florida. Although the people really don't seem retired, they're very busy. They're very, very busy. They're either at a class or at the pickleball court, or they're in a golf course, or they're riding around their golf courts, or they're at happy hour because there's a little bit of drinking that goes on too. I'm teaching classes there all this semester. So I have 8 classes coming up, and people can sign up for those. They just look for my name or Frank Lloyd Wright in the catalog for the enrichment, pardon me, in the Enrichment Academy. And furthermore, into my what I do to teach and things, I actually am in the funeral industry. As many of you know, my main business in the funeral industry, and I last year started publishing a magazine called Funeral Business Solutions, which is 60 pages or more of great stories and tips and tricks and things for funeral homes. We publish that 6 times a year, and I have a lot of great writers that work with me from all over the country, and well, in Canada as well. And that goes out to every funeral home in the United States that wants to get a copy. They don't have to pay for it. It's completely free, paid for by the advertisers. Brandy, oh, you lot of wind and rain. Yeah, me too. We had a lot of it, and I live with an amateur weather forecaster meteorologist. In college, he would have been a meteorologist, but it turns out pharmacy paid better and was just as interesting to him. So he became a pharmacist, which is good because he's doing great. And but he loves that. So literally, we sat through Helene with his computer open to weather chat rooms with other armchair meteorologists, and of course the radar going, and he kept going outside. The wind is howling, and palm fronds are coming out of my big, huge palm trees in the backyard. And he's out there like just fascinated by things. Oh, another transformer exploded across the lake. I mean, like, anyway, there are nerds all over the place. Let's see. Danny, projects with zippers intimidate me. I avoid them at all costs. Do you have a zipper for scaredy cats video? You know what? That's a really good question. And some of those bag videos are a really good idea. I don't even use a zipper foot. Isn't that crazy? I use a 1/4 inch foot and just sew right along the teeth of the zipper, and I don't really care. I'm not gonna. You know what scares me? Invisible zippers. And I know how to do them. I've done them. I just don't like them, so I don't do them. So at the same point, yeah, if you don't like zippers, don't worry about it. But there are some easy ones. One of the Dop Kit videos would be good for you, or that diagonal zipper bag video looks a lot more complicated than it is. It's super easy. You should try it out. Let's see, Victoria. You did have them quilt the fabrics first. I love it. Well, of course, my method is easier if you want to go fast, which of course I do. I do love the look though of a quilted, especially quilted in those lines, like the way they do for the Center Street quilt people do. Like it just looks really good. I always love the way it looks, but I don't have usually that. I don't usually have that sort of that batting material laying around, the thicker sort of stuff. And it's tedious. It's a lot of sewing. So I'm just like, you know what? I want to get a job. I want to get done faster. So I do. Good morning, Jackie. Thank you so much for joining me. Oh, you did make it, Anna. You made a tennis racket bag. I am blown away. I didn't know anyone had done that from that video. I think that's so great. You quilted your own material. Well, that's good. No, I think you surely should probably. And I hope it looked really good and you loved it. I really I haven't really used mine very much because I'm pretty rough on a tennis bag. So I've been kind of waiting for the right person to give it to. I'm very happy with the one I made, but I'm waiting for the right person to give it to. Vicky, you were a florist. You were closely with funeral directors. Oh yes, we could totally trade stories, Vicky. Because before I did this business, I worked in the funeral home. I worked in two different funeral homes, and it was interesting. I found that I was really suited to being calm under pressure when people were in difficult times and having needing somebody who could be um, stoic in a way, not uncaring, but the family is feeling all the emotion. My job was to make sure that things went right. I really love doing that because I like creating some order out of chaos. I liked that for those people where I could give them space to have this really difficult time and be as emotional as they needed to be. Um, yeah, it was hard work though. I will tell you, it's very, very hard work to do because you always have to be super prepared. You really can't make a mistake because you only some they only bury their mom once, so you can't mess it up. It's actually really affected the way I do a lot of other things in my life, which I find interesting. I don't have a lot of time for people who don't prepare for contingencies because working in a funeral home, you have to prepare for every contingency. It's the reason why every funeral director has 15 to 20 umbrellas in the trunk of their car because you get to a graveside service and it starts to rain, you better have umbrellas for everybody. Like it's that big of a deal. Like we working in a funeral home, we always thought about all the things that could go wrong and how do we fix them, especially when someone's spending tens of thousands of dollars potentially for their loved one. You better make sure that you're ready for all possibilities. And so a lot of the stuff that I make for funeral homes in my business, Final Embrace, is designed to help solve those problems. We've actually made a very successful specialty table called a Versa table, which folds down to just 20. It's just a real thin package, but it weighs 8 pounds. But it's a table that you can carry anywhere that you might need to set up an extra small table. I source the table itself out of the camping industry, and then we make a specialty cover that just pops open. It's pretty awesome. So I haven't had a lot of questions in the chat. I've had some great conversation so far. But if you do have a question specifically for me, this is a great time because I see questions sometimes in the comments after a video, but I really can't answer them because it would take I could type you a sentence or two. But this is a great place if you had a specific question or wanted to chat about something. It would be a great place to throw that question into the chat and bring it out if you're interested. I specifically have a few videos on the horizon that are tutorials. I'm working on how to make a little bag that looks like a taco because it's a fun, cutesy idea. I'm still working on it, so I haven't yet decided to debut it yet. I'm not going to until I get that completely worked out. I'm also working on a quilt top out of just a jelly roll, and to show you how to use jelly rolls to make a quick quilt. And I'm hoping to do that one soon. Oh, and I'm working on um, a Bargello quilt, and a Bargello quilt kind of is like where you sew strips together and then cut them apart and move the strips so that you get a movement through the quilt. I'm trying to figure out a way to do that in a way that looks really different and interesting, and at the same time isn't just the same video that everybody else has made about Bargello quilt tutorials. Although I do want to point out something. It's interesting. I sometimes get people commenting saying, "Oh, you made this thing, and somebody else made that 2 years ago." And I don't watch every video on YouTube, so I don't know who made what 2 years ago. There are times that I get inspired by other videos here, and I do try as much as possible to reference those people if someone does inspire me. I also try to make sure that I'm not just recreating their video, that if I am doing it for you, I'm doing it in a way that makes the most sense. And do me a favor, if you're watching right now, anybody, I don't care who it is, just type something into the chat for me and hit enter because I'm worried that my chat's not properly updating. The last comment I have is from Vicky, and I'm a little worried that there's more, and I should have heard more and seen more. I don't want to be missing any questions that people might be asking into the chat, but I don't know how to change the chat to say, hmm. Oh, well, it's there you go. Hey, Callie, thank you so much. I just feel like I'm talking and talking, and no one's, and I just have lots to say, of course. So today is Saturday, like I said, at about, hi, Kivia. I hope I said that right, or Kivia. It's a great name either way. Um, it's so nice. Thank you so much for coming and visiting. Sheila, uh, listen, I love giving so many videos and I get so much reaction from people. So thank you so much. Donna, yes, I did visit that store in Wisconsin, and there was a kite video, a kite on the wall. I am making that kite video. In fact, I've done a test of it. I'm happy with it, and I will be making a full video for that. And in fact, I think probably next month you'll see a kite video. So I'm glad you reminded me. I'll make sure it's on the list of ones to go. I do have a year's worth of videos written down, ideas, and bouncing them around is sort of the fun part of trying to figure out what to do next. But I will make sure the kite video is out soon. Um, oh, interesting. Danny lives in a Victorian house that made balances for the house, and now the backing has been disintegrated by the sun. Isn't that a difficult problem? What fabric should be used for curtains and valances? There's a lot of options available actually, and a lot of it's going to depend really. I'm just thinking off the top of my head. I don't make a lot of curtains and valances, although I have done it. Would be, what do you want seen from the street? Is that a problem? And what do you want that fabric to be? So if you're doing the backing, you're not going to see it inside, and you're not maybe not really worried about being seen outside. They do make fabrics that are designed for the sun. I'm thinking specifically about sunbrella and other stuff like that. Um, I also like to use a lot of I use nylon pack cloth for a lot of things, but it's waterproof and but I don't know if that's the right material. It just isn't going to disintegrate in the sun is the deal. So you're looking for a heavier fabric that does that. I would suggest looking up for one of those. Hi, Eileen from Idaho. Thank you so much. You're very kind. Jackie, thank you for the wave. Holly, yes, I do have a lively up personality. A lot of times I am usually the center of attention if I get into a room of people, mostly because I don't like to just sit in the background. I typically want to be in control or in charge. If I go to an event that people say to me, "You want to come to this event?" I'm like, "Well, can I stand at the back and organize it, or can I be at the front with the microphone?" And if they say no to those things, then I usually don't want to go. Not because I have to be the center of attention, but I don't feel like I don't, I feel out of control otherwise. And it's really hard for me. To sort of sit there and watch as things could have been done better, which is probably too critical of me, right? Sheila, thank you for listening. I hope I do have good ideas. I really do try, absolutely a lot. Donna, two Donnas, Hoskins and Yarborough. Well, Donna, thank you so much for joining me, Donna. And I will be making that, like I said, I will be making that kite video. And Donna Yarborough from Connecticut, thank you so much for joining. Victoria, hello. Vicky, thank you for being here. Yeah, and that sunbrella is pretty heavy. I'm just trying to think of fabrics that would reflect the sun rather than absorbing it and be disintegrated by it. So if anyone has any of that idea, please share it because Danny has some questions for that. Jane, hello from South Carolina. Well, thank you for joining me, Jane. So I am talking really about what's coming up next for the channel specifically. I do take a lot of feedback from all of you. So if you watch a video and make a comment on the video, I read the comments. I am very self assured. It's not something I've been my entire life. It's something I found more recently in the last half of my life so far. But I now really believe in myself. And part of that is having an amazing family that has supported me like crazy. And so I believe in myself. So sometimes I'll read a comment from somebody because there are some, I would not normally suggest you read the comments on the internet. It's actually usually can be a very negative experience because you'll have 10 really lovely comments. And then you'll have someone saying, "You're an idiot and I don't know why you're even making these videos." And then the only thing I can think of is, then why are you watching it? Like, if this video is so terrible, I mean, are you being tortured? Like, are you in a cell and people are making you watch horrible YouTube videos? Or did you make a conscious choice to click on this video and watch it? In which case, I don't know. I got your view now. Like, if all I cared about was ad revenue, I got your money. So I don't care. I never understand when people get this kind of attitude. It's a little crazy that people can do. So I'm very self-assured. I read the comments. So if you make a comment saying, "Hey, I would love to see you, you know, explore this topic or this one or that one," I will get it. You don't have to go find an email address for me or go to my Facebook group or anything else like that. Let's see, Leilani, while I'm not new to sewing or quilting, I still enjoy the videos. Oh, well, thank you. I'm glad I have a variety of content. I try to. In fact, I went to IKEA a couple weeks ago and I shot video all over IKEA, and I plan to bring you an IKEA video. The reason I'm going to do that is a lot of people haven't been to an IKEA. There aren't that many in the country. I mean, there's a few, but there's not like city doesn't. Not every city has an IKEA. Not even every big city has an IKEA. So I thought I'd show you what that experience is like. And so hopefully you'll join me for that in a month or two. Let's see. Robin is in Cleveland. Hey, Robin. I love it. Not far from Falling Water, which is in southwestern Pennsylvania, an amazing Frank Lloyd Wright building. Sheila says the items recommended in your 10 items video were great. I checked them out and bought a few. The hem clips are helpful. Yes, and that was like the 10 items under $10. Now, here's the interesting thing, and I want everyone to know, I want full disclosure. When I recommend an item for you on Amazon earlier this year, a friend of mine said, "Why are you recommending items but not giving them a link that is connected to you?" And that's how I found out about the Amazon Associates program, which allows me to give you a link to an item. And if you buy the item at the same regular price you would have gotten searching it for it any other time through Amazon, then to reward me for getting you to click on that link and see about buying that item, they send me like 2%. So if you buy a $10 item, I make like 20 cents, which is lovely actually, because I mean, it's getting close to it's getting close to $1,000 I've made this year on Amazon Associates. I shouldn't even say I've made it because it's really been all the people who've said, "Oh, I love that video." So when I put out that 10 items for the under $10, I mean, I always give you links to Amazon now because it's the easy way. I have a real easy interface to click a link and add it into my video, but you can buy them anywhere. But those things, I really thought, gosh, there's all these items that I'm recommending that could be hundreds of dollars potentially. Let me go find the ones that are under 10 bucks, the ones we don't really think about or have gotten a lot cheaper since I first bought them. Because trust me, those some of those clips were way more expensive before they start getting mass produced. Let's see. Any way to patch outdoor umbrellas that got damaged in the hurricane? Kelly, that's a really great idea. Um, we were just talking earlier about sunbrella fabrics. I think that would be quite useful, in fact, and it would be a really cute way to sort of patch them in a cutesy way. Maybe you do a little decorative cutout and then stitch it back on. Donna, oh, I make market bags from your tutorial. Oh, are these like the ones that like fold up and can get small or whatever? I hope so. You're sewing 50 more today? Holy cow, all donated to her assisted retirement home. That is so awesome. I gotta tell you, sometimes I make these videos. I made the video for the clothing protector because specifically my mom, who's a vital person, still works with me. She's not sitting anywhere. I say that in a lovely way. I don't mean that rudely, but when I talk about my grandmother or my mom or something else, I would reference if they were confined to a rest home or something. So my mom is very very busy, right? She says to me, "Hey, the program I work with, the local dog therapy dogs, we go to a lot of nursing homes, and we're doing these nursing home bags. Could you teach my group how to make a clothing protector because they're very popular?" And I was like, "Well, I've never made that before, but I've seen a lot of people selling them at craft shows and other places." And so I figured out sort of a simple design and that I could create and share with people online. So I did that. But those market bags were really cute as well. And what a great way to use just a little bit of fabric to do them. That is so good. Let's see. Vicky's never been to an IKEA. Well, I'm going to take you along with me in a video in a couple of weeks. It's a lot of fun, actually. How to set up a sewing room. Oh, you get an attic, Robin. You get an attic. There's so much room. Now, I will tell you, I made some comments. I did a video actually called like 10 essentials for your sewing room or something like that. But I'm going to tell you one of the things that I will never do in a sewing room for me. I'll never put down a rug or carpets. And that is solely because I drop things and mostly I drop pins. And I don't like, I've had a pin get stuck into a rug before. And then also, I don't like to wear shoes in a sewing room. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't. You probably should. But I don't like to wear shoes. Sometimes I'm there in socks. Sometimes I take the socks off. I have shoved a needle or a pin through my foot by having it caught in a rug in a sewing room. So I just wouldn't do it for me. I think you need a nice big table. Every time someone sees my cutting table, the cutting table at our workshop, which is 6 foot wide by 12 foot long. Actually, it's more than 12 feet long. It's like 14, and it's got an entire self healing mat on top. Like we we can cut anywhere on the table. People are always amazed, a little jealous, and I gotta tell you, it's still not big enough sometimes. So I say get the biggest table you can. Let's see. Oh, gotta see who else is in here. Books and life. You love your my videos from beautiful Michigan. Oh, like I said earlier, I love Michigan. I have family in the Grand Rapids area. Sheila, I am aware of costs. I do make suggestions to fit all budgets, although I will tell you, I only suggest Amazon because it's the easiest place for me to give you links to. I don't expect anyone to actually use Amazon if they don't want to. I'm perfectly fine with people going other places or even seeing a product that I suggest and then going to their local quilt store because we won't have local quilt stores unless we shop at local quilt stores. So you do have to go shop at local quilt stores so that you can keep them alive because they are vitally important. So even though I have told people the kind of sewing machines that I use and the serger that I use, it's a Juki MO 1000 or something like that with the blow through air technology. Amazing. Don't buy a serger without the blow through technology. If you can afford to buy one that has the air feed technology. But I still buy those at a local place, even though I'll give you an Amazon link for them if you want them. I buy them locally at my local store because I know they make a couple $100s off of selling it and they're going to take care of it locally and everything else. If you buy on Amazon, can I be included, Sheila? Um, yeah, well, the thing is, you just have to follow the link that I provide to it. So if that link will work for you, great. If the link doesn't, don't worry about it. It's minimal. It really is. I have multiple streams of revenue, of income in my life. I That's another thing. I will talk about that in the future at some point. Am just really um, I really care a lot about people being self-sufficient and able to survive and live the lifestyle that they want. And part of that is making sure you aren't relying on just one stream of income for your livelihood, but 95% of people do. So I'm really a big advocate for having multiple streams of income. So literally, the Amazon income is, even though it's a lot this year, already $1,000 at most. That's extra. It's not. I'm not relying on it to live my life. So I don't need anyone to go make an extra effort to benefit me in that way. I appreciate it. I really do, but I don't. It's not necessary. So if you can, great. Now I will point out something interesting, and I'm not going to tell anyone they need to do this, but it's interesting. Amazon pays me not only for the items I recommend, but anything else you buy during a session that you initiated from one of my links. So if you go from my video, like if you were to copy one of my Amazon links and just, have it sitting around, and every time you ordered from Amazon, you clicked on that link first and then just didn't buy that item but bought other stuff, it still gives me credit. So I have literally in my report, it'll say you got, this much money from, you got 80 cents from an item that you recommended and $1.50 from items you didn't recommend. And I'm like, well, wait a second. How did that happen? Because it gives me credit for the entire session. So if someone goes to buy a $10 item and then they add $50 worth of other stuff, I get credit for the entire order. It is crazy, absolutely crazy. It's lovely, and it doesn't add anything to your cost. The only thing is I can't buy all my own stuff from Amazon that way because it knows that my account's connected, and it would look like fraud, and they would just drop my whole account. Sheila Walker, several Sheilas in here. Sheila Walker asked, do you have a storefront? I don't have a storefront. I do not like retail. I've done it before. I owned a uniform store for 3 years. That's a long time ago, but 10 or 11 years ago. And I sold medical uniforms to nurses mostly. And I loved my customers. But I was still working a full-time job by that point and had employees working for me and couldn't really build the business. And storefront is just so annoying. I have no storefront, nothing. Let's see. Brandy, thank you for still watching. Vicky Wagner, I want to do a wheelchair quilt, a fidget quilt for adults. Oh, Yes, yes, yes. I have some great ideas. I am doing a video on quilt embellishments, things you can add to quilts like rickrack and other stuff. But I also want to talk about a fidget quilt because I think the idea is so much fun, or an I Spy quilt too. I love those ideas over time. Jennifer, you're late. Don't worry, we're still here. Thank you so much for joining me. We're going to be here for about 15 more minutes or so. Let's see. Jackie, my sewing room is tiled. I have stepped on way too many pins and carpeting. I am with you, Jackie. And Jane says, I like using a magnetic wand over the carpet to catch all the pins. That's valuable. The only thing I have found is that sometimes they get shoved into like the loops or whatever else. So I'm always careful. Our workshop, so you have to remember that my sewing, whenever I sew, I'm at my house right now, but when I come to you sewing, I'm typically at my workshop for my business. So that's a business called Final Embrace. We make blankets and quilts and other items for funeral homes, and we sew all day long there using sewing machines, typically Janome 1600P or 1600 BBX sewing machines, and we use Juki MO 1000 or 1100 sergers. So, and then we do have a couple of industrial machines, but not everyone who works for me is comfortable on a big industrial machine. So, rather than give them the full sweatshop treatment, we let them use sort of that mid-level home slash slightly industrial, semi-industrial machine. Now, interestingly enough, when I'm coming from there, I have like a full workshop that's meant for 4 or 5 people to sew at all times. And so we have fully tiled floor. All of our furniture is either metal or wood. And we've made a lot of our own furniture so our sewing machines can sit down into our handmade tables. We have a huge, huge cutting table. We have two of them actually. One that's 6 by 10, and the other one is 6 by 14, I think, or it is. And that stuff is and we have a lot of room and space there. And so usually that's what you're seeing. Kathy asked a question: how do you know when to change your tension or your stitch? Well, a lot of that can come down to trial and error, and you'll know whether or not the tension specifically is really designed just to keep your top thread and your bobbin thread even. So you don't want to be pulling the bobbin thread out to the top of the fabric where you'd be seeing it, and you don't want to be pulling the top thread down to the bottom to where the bobbin is pulling it down underneath. And probably the best way to figure that out is to get a nice neutral fabric like a white, put one color of thread like red and one color like blue on the bottom, and sew and see if you can see the threads at the top and bottom. Is the top just blue fat thread on white fabric, and is the bottom just red thread on white fabric? Well, then you've got the right sewing tension. But it does change with the different materials you're using and with the thread. So you just have to be watching what your thread is doing. And it's always easy to figure that out. Stitch length is different. Now, stitch length is really going to be about what you need to do for your machine or for the project you're making. You have to be careful. If you put your stitch length too short and they're really, really close together, there are fabrics that you can almost perforate the fabric by sewing too closely together. And then it's going to really, going to distress the fabric or weaken the fabric itself at your seam. But then there are places where you don't want to have really long stitch lengths. I mean, my machine goes from like 0 to 6. That's typically the measurement allowed on the stitch length. If I'm at a 6, that's huge jumps. That's basically a basting stitch. I'm doing that just to hold the fabrics together, knowing I'm going to rip the thread out later. I like to sew at about a 2 to 3. It also depends on how fast you want to go, because longer stitches take less time to sew, obviously, because you have less of them to do. And so that's really going to depend. Now, if you're looking at different types of stitches, well, there's so much of a tutorial you could do about how many different types of stitches there are and what they're for. I think sewing machines tend to end up with way too many stitches on them, those specialty machines, where they're trying to really sell you like, it comes with 160 stitches. And you're like, am I really going to use the third one on the fourth row over to the right? I mean, like, I don't know that I'm using that. So some of those are just decorative, or they're used for a purpose and you just don't know what they are. And they're specialty. Maybe they're for blind hemming pants, stuff like that. You just have to play with those, and actually maybe a tutorial in the future would be smart on that. But sometimes it's hard because so many machines have so many different stitches available. Let's see. Jackie, you sweep your sewing error after every sewing session. I mean, Good for you because I wish I did that more often. Luckily, I have to clean up after I'm done because I'm usually using someone else's workstation at the workshop, and I don't want them to come in on Monday and go, "Well, Tim's been here because my whole workstation is messed up." So I try to return everything to where it was, which means the floor as well. Leilani says, as about the beginning sewist, we all started the same place, not knowing anything. Then we started learning how to cut fabric. Yeah, yeah, you just have to start. It's my favorite thing that I do for people is and give just them the encouragement. You can do it. It's the reason I leave my mistakes in my videos too. A lot of people don't really understand that. I sometimes get comments of like, "Why would you leave?" I've had, believe it or not, I've had people who say, "Why would you leave the mistakes in these videos? We don't need to sit and watch your mistakes." And I think, well, I've watched plenty of videos from sewing people, and I think they are gods who never mess up at all because, wow, look how good everything looks. And it's always perfect. And there's never a stitch out of place. And then you realize they did it 6 times to get it perfect. Well, I'm going to show you what the mistakes look like and what the potentials are because I've been sewing a long time, like 35 years now. And if I can make a mistake at 35 years of experience, then you're probably going to make it at 2 years of experience and you're going to make the same one. So I think the mistakes are perfect and we all absolutely are part of that experience. Now, this is more important to know too. In my company, we have a rule, and the rule is that we try to only make new mistakes. So I have people who say, "Oh, I am worried about making a mistake," and I tell them you should only be worried about making old mistakes. If you make old mistakes, then it means you haven't learned, and that's bad. Just make new ones. In fact, we celebrate new mistakes. We absolutely, I will tell employees, if you make a new mistake, I need you to call everyone around and we're going to have a big, like, oh my gosh, let's look at the new mistake because we're all going to learn from it. Plus, if you're making a new mistake, the odds are that you tried to do something different or better or faster. And for a company, that's good. I want people that are trying to make our product better or faster because the faster they make it, the less money I spend. So the more profit I make. So I'm very happy for that. Let's see. Vicky, oh wait, Jane, stacking multiple layers of painter's tape makes a nice guide for quilting the perfect scant 1/4 inch seam. Oh my goodness, that's so good. I will tell you, let's see, that was after Kivia said that you use masking tape on your sewing machine for straight lines. Oh yeah, put tape on your machine all the time. I think that's perfect. Anytime you're doing a project, you can pop it on and off, not hard at all. And by stacking layers, absolutely. I'm not an enormous fan of scant 1/4 inch seams because I feel like it's so dangerous. They're going to come apart. You have to be really careful what stitch length you use for that. Vicky, do you use a serger? Absolutely. I use a serger all the time in my own sewing or in our company sewing. I don't often put sergers into the videos that I make of these projects because not everyone has access to a serger. So there's a really great cooking guy named B. Dylan Hollis. In fact, I'm going to grab his cookbook. Hold on. So this is B. Dylan Hollis. He wrote a book called Baking Yesteryear. He does really, really funny videos, very short videos. But in his longer videos, he talks about the fact that the reason he doesn't even use like a stand mixer and all the other stuff, and he whisks things by hand and does all that, is because many people won't have that. Not saying most people don't have it, but some people won't have it. And he doesn't want people to feel like cooking is inaccessible to them or baking is inaccessible to them because he used a stand mixer and they don't have one. So yes, I have a lovely serger. I don't use it very often because in these videos, because I don't want people to feel like they have to have $1,000 serger or even a couple $100 serger, which is an extra thing. You know, the thing is that sewing machines tend to get passed down, you know, from grandmothers. You can find them in thrift stores. In fact, if you go to that So Green sewing thrift store, they have probably 100 sewing machines available for sale. So you can usually find a sewing machine relatively inexpensive, and somebody has one in a closet. You can find sergers in people's closets, usually ones that they used twice and then couldn't rethread it, and then they just put it in the closet. But they're harder to use, and so I just don't bring them in very often. I probably should do a video about how sergers work and how you can make the most out of your serger because there are some really great projects you can do. In fact, I love a serger for a lot of things. Um, and we actually use them for a lot of our quilts in our company. Let's see. Donna, thank you for saying I should leave my mistakes in the videos. Of course. I mean, I don't leave really egregious mistakes. Like, I don't leave really bad ones, but I leave the ones that I think you're likely to make because I feel like, oh, well, if I made this, other people are likely to make it as well. Jane, you have to make Jack your best friend, Jack the Ripper. Yes, Jack the Seam Ripper. Absolutely, Jane. That's hilarious. Oh yeah, I Seam Ripper all the time. I wish I was better with a Seam Ripper, but yeah, you have to do it all the time. And there are times where you just have to start over. There are things where I go, I'm not going to fix this that well. I'm just going to start it over again. Donna says, please do your serger videos. So does Vicky. My son just bought me a serger this year, says Donna. I've been sewing a long time, but now I need tutorials. Absolutely. I will be glad to do that. And I would be very careful about anybody who tells you you can do anything with a serger. That's not true. There's certainly projects where you're like, no, I need a sewing machine because you're going to cut stuff off with a serger. It's also important to know in most sergers, you can disengage the blade and do some different stuff with a serger, like some interesting stitching techniques and flat stitches and other stuff that's very interesting. I don't do a lot of that, mostly because we're just adhering two pieces of fabric together. There's a lot more to deal with in terms of tension because now you have 4 threads to deal with. You got a lot more issues in terms of stitch length and how do you finish off the stitches and other stuff. I mean, there's just a lot to deal with a serger, but I love sergers. I used to use, I started with a Singer, a really old, like 24 years ago now. I had a serger, and oh, that thing was a workhorse. It's the one I bought at Walmart 20 something years ago. And it died some years ago. I gave it to somebody, and then I think they told me it died finally. And then I graduated to Husqvarna Viking sergers, and those worked really well for quite a while. In fact, I used to buy those for $100 to $200 on eBay. In fact, it's funny. So my dad's sewn for me for quite a while. He's the first person I ever hired separate from me to sew, and he was doing it in his garage at home, and I was doing it in my garage at home, and we kind of melded that together. So he's a minority owner in my company, so he owns about 10% of my company. And it's funny. One day I told him that I said, "Yeah, we need another serger," and so he was on. I didn't know it, but he was on eBay bidding on a serger. I was on eBay bidding on a serger, and the price kept going up. And I finally called and said, I'm bidding on this serger, but I'm gonna have to stop because it's up to $300." And he goes, "I'm bidding on a $300 serger." It turns out we were bidding against each other, which is totally crazy. Jay, oh well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I do try to have an approachable manner, and I do want to offer options that are affordable. You can spend a lot of money sewing and quilting, and I'm fine with that if people want to. And I occasionally do buy some very expensive fabrics, but that's my choice. I don't want people to feel like they have to do that. I like the art to be accessible to as many people as possible, and I'm also rather frugal. I have very little debt, and I like that because I grew up um, quite frugal. We grew up very frugal. I hate to say we were poor, but we were kind of poor, and I still keep that my mindset in my mind, even at 49 now. I keep thinking that even though I've done quite well and I have multiple sources of income and I do a really good job of that, I still try to keep in mind that there are people who are, maybe they're buying one sewing thing this month as a treat, but it's their only budget. So how can I make sure that I'm not telling them to spend crazy amounts of money on crazy stuff? It doesn't work either. I don't like stuff that doesn't work. If it works, then great, I'll tell you about it. If it doesn't work, I have a couple videos coming up. The laser is one of them. I have another one that's going to be really weird. You're going to see it on like a Wednesday or Thursday. Don't freak out when I put it out. For a scooter, this company sent me a scooter. It's funny because I have 75,000 subscribers, so people are reaching out like crazy. I've had companies asking me to. I'm not going to sell you vitamins. I don't understand the reason. I don't know how they work, why they'd be good, and how it fits my audience. Oh, but your audience could use vitamins. Well, yeah, I guess, but I mean, if you are in my target demographic, which is 90% female and 50% over the age of 65, if you haven't figured out vitamins yet, you're not going to. So you've got it all figured out already. Well, this company sent me a scooter which is actually really cool, but not like I'm not like a hover around scooter, not a mobility scooter, like a ride it on the street scooter. But it's really cute. So I'm gonna do a video for it because I know some people will see it, but my audience, maybe it's not perfect for them, but it might be something you're buying for a kid or a grandkid. And I actually see people in my town riding these exact scooters as their daily transportation. So I know it has some good activity. There's a place in our community that helps kids who are just out of foster care. So, and my son, I adopted him out of foster care. So I will be looking to finding one of the kids at that program to give the scooter to after. So it seemed like it made a lot of sense for me to tell him to go ahead and send it to me. Um, Even though I don't think anybody on my channel needs to buy a scooter to ride around. It'll be a little bit of fun. Let's see. Jackie said you love your serger, use it a lot, and ended up giving it to your daughter. What a great! I mean, save it for somebody who's yeah. Give it to somebody who will use it, especially if they're using it more than you needed it. Let's see. Oh yeah, you Jackie, you have to have a serger. The swing door on the needle end opens all the way up so you can thread it easily. It's so important. Jennifer, you got a serger for 40 bucks at an auction. I love how autocorrect decides you can't say serger. It says server, right? Like it always does that to me. My phone thinks that I'm saying seeing. If I say, "Oh, I'm going to be doing a little sewing," I'm gonna be doing a little seeing. Isn't it more likely I'm gonna be doing a little sewing? And shouldn't this phone know that I do sewing? Like I don't. How can it not figure that out? A little crazy. Um, Danny, if you could figure out how to transport your portable sewing machine and your project on that scooter, you could make a video. Oh my gosh, Danny, let me just tell you, I actually think that portable sewing machine would fit in the basket on that on that scooter. And if it does, I'm totally doing that. I know it'll fit at least as that big electric rotary cutter, which still scares me every time I think about it. In fact, I think I may be taking that video down at some point because I'm really worried someone's going to buy one of those and then cut their finger off. And I just can't even imagine that feeling. I get a little too sympathetic about those feelings. All right, I'm going to wrap this up in just a minute because I am going to be launching my next video in just a few minutes. Like it's set actually to launch at 11:09. So it's going to launch in like 10 minutes. So I'm going to kick off of here. And then if you're still hanging out on YouTube, you should see that there's a video coming for me. Like if you click on my name, you could find the next video coming and be ready for the premiere. It'll come at 11:09. The video itself will run, and then I'll just answer questions in the chat after that. Thank you so much for joining me on this Q&A. It was a lot of fun to chat back and forth. I always worry that I won't be able to talk for an hour, but turns out I shouldn't be worried because I can talk a lot. But I'm glad you're here with me. So 50-something people joined us today. Thank you so much for being on the live Q&A. And until next time, stay crafty. Bye, y'all. Hopefully see some of you in a few. Okay, so how do I turn this thing off? Yeah, purple. It's all right. 10 minutes from now, I'm going to be launching the other video. So come to that one. Bye.